Saturday night with on Nickelodeon in my underwear with my action figures next to me. And now I know as an adult, you're going around sucking people off. It's just like, is this what podcasting has come to community, the culture? Who is the Joe Rogan? Who is our Joe Rogan? You said it better than me because I'm like, a lot of you people act like your check engine light is still not on your car. Like you can't be sitting here with your nose up in the air and your check engine light is on your car. Where do you see podcasts heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Ooh, that's a good question. This is a really, really good question, came up.
Well, welcome. We are recording, by the way, just to let you know. Okay, perfect. Well, welcome. I'm super excited for this. First of all, let me put in an intro. Welcome to Kurious. My name is Cayman. And on this episode, we have a college student, we have a podcaster, a YouTuber. Now, I was thinking, okay, you love to stay in the TikTok live and debate. So I was like, where is this girl going to go? Like, what's she going to do? So stay with me, though.
Okay.
I can see you being the next Candace Owens, but for the other side.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, yeah.
She's real put together. Her politics are abysmal, but like, I respect her grind of sorts.
Yes. I'm gonna put my headphones in so I can hear better. If I can find this thing. Hold on. Okay, but welcome, Sydney. Sydney is your name. I didn't even get to say your name, but welcome to Kurious. And thank you so much for joining my podcast. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling fine. I am.
Nice.
Finals are almost over, so I can
Yes.
come and like relax for a month.
What are you studying?
Political science.
Oh, that makes lots of sense.
Yeah. It tracks.
I was like, what is she studying? I don't know why political science didn't come through my mind because it was like I said, you are very much so in debates on TikTok live. I don't know how you get it. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I'm super excited. When I started making my podcast, I had you on my list. I think I started in 2022 and I was just like, oh, wouldn't that be cool? You know, when you start dreaming and hoping and wishing and praying, you know what I mean? And so you're like, all right, well, praying works and manifesting works. Let me write her name down. And I'm super glad that I got you on. I'm super glad that we had time to meet. It helps me out, makes me feel great. It makes me feel like maybe I should stop second guessing things. But we will get to all of that later. I want to get to know you. So I don't know anything about you. So first of all, you play basketball. Let me ask you this. I asked this question before. Let's say you tragically pass away, right? You are dead. I don't know. Because you're in poli-sci, someone has poisoned you. You know, you were drinking your wine. And
Not
you got
the
poisoned.
poison.
Yes, very scandal, very Olivia Pope. And so now your family and friends have to write an obituary about you. They have to, you know how obituary goes. So if I had to give the opportunity for your friends and family to write an obituary, what would they say about you?
Well, I think they would say that I do things my own way, very unorthodox with my interests, and just kind of how like I approached my life. I think that like it was always very difficult for me to conform to things, and I think that that is represented, in my interests, because none of the people that I'm around are interested in the things I'm interested in.
hmm
um so I think that would probably be the theme. Like, this girl was really outspoken. She would just never shut up about the things that she believed, and didn't compromise her beliefs for anything. So I feel
I
like
like that.
I feel like the headline for my obituary is that this girl never sold out. That will be the
Preach. Preach. Okay, before we continue going, the camera cut you off at your chin, so I didn't know if you're okay with that. I didn't want you to look back at this and be like, why did this boy up more, a smidget more?
better.
Right there. Yes. You know when your friend has a booger on their nose and like, ooh, do I
Mhm.
tell them or do I just let it be? And
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, you know what?
glad you told me. I'm glad you told
Yeah,
me.
I didn't want to put this on the YouTube and for the rest of our lives or like Okay, I love what you said. What's your sign? Do you believe in astrology?
I don't necessarily believe, but I don't understand it. So it's like you can't believe
Okay.
it, if you don't know well. Um,
Facts.
I'm a Capricorn, but on the cusp of Aquarius.
Okay. Capricorns they like stability. They're an earth sign. They're very stubborn, but they like stability. They're very um, earth signs are kind of hard to break through. They like keep everything behind a wall. But
Okay.
once you get past that wall, they're like ride or die. But an Aquarius is an air sign, so they're very intellectual. They're very like you can have. I'm a Sagittarius, so I get along with Aquarius. Famous Aquarius and Sagittarius, my mom and my dad, in
Mhm.
the City Girls. So JT is a Sag, and Young Miami is an Aquarius. So
Got it.
artsy. They love to travel. They love to be on their own. They love to, and they're just very intellectual people.
Mhm.
But I love the reason why I asked because you said you love to do things the other way, and I'm a Sag, and so
Mhm.
we like to do things our own way. We like to beat to our own drum.
Mhm.
I'm so glad you said that because that is part of what I want to talk about later. But where did you ever like when you were growing up? Did that ever hinder you? Did you ever feel like? Do you feel like you have to be part of the status quo, or did you feel like it's hard to stand on your own?
I think for me, growing up, I was always in like predominantly white spaces, and typically, like, I also went to private school, so coming from like a working class family, and I was always amongst people who were very different than me. So you just I became very comfortable with being on my own, just being who I was, and kind of, I think that like one of the things I realized was that it's not like my family is poor or anything. It's just that we're never, and I grew up in San Francisco. So I'm going to school in like, right, Charles. So I'm like going to school in Silicon Valley. So there is no faking it. If you really don't have it, there is no faking it. There is no trying to fit in. So at a certain point, you just stop trying. And then that mindset just sort of carries over. I just don't know how to pretend because it's like, if I don't have it, I don't have it. And that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I grew up in predominantly white spaces and stuff like that. And it's
Mhm.
funny hearing your story because I think I always tried to fit in, even
Mm,
though like when I started this podcast, I try to make it different, and that's something I'm
mhm,
struggling with. Is like you try to do something different, but then at the end of the day, it all comes out in the wash as just like a podcast. But
mhm,
I'm, I just had this a conversation with someone, and they were like, "You're very defiant," and sometimes that's a bad thing. But I always felt like I just when people go right, I go left. I don't know what it
mhm,
is, and when I see a lot of people just constantly just following along and like we're not asking questions like I'll follow, you know what I mean? I'll follow for a cute like what's going on.
right,
But if
right.
we continue to follow and like we're doing it for hours and hours and we're not getting anything back, I'm like, wait, what are we doing? Like what's happening? We gotta like wake up and figure something else out. And so then I'll go left. But even growing up in predominantly white spaces, I always felt like I had to fit in. I tried so hard. And I don't know if it's because before I moved to those predominantly white spaces, I grew up in predominantly black spaces. But even in them, I was like too white or too gay for them. And
Gotcha.
then in the white spaces, I just, you're just a black kid. So it's just like, you
Mhm.
don't really have to, for them, they don't have to put you in other categories. You're black and that's, bye,
Right,
bye,
that's
bye. So it's interesting to hear that, when you were different, you use it as, well, fuck you guys anyway. I'm going to beat to my own drum and be by myself. I was like, let me put on what you guys need me to put on so I can not be
Mhm,
different. But yeah,
mhm.
I like that. Um, how is college? How's college life? How are things going for you?
I would say it's difficult. I think college is difficult to enjoy for me, if I'm being real, right?
Why?
Because so my college experience is very different from I think other people. So
Hmm.
first there was COVID freshman year,
Hmm.
gone for a
Hmm.
year and a half. Then when I came back, that September I got really sick, right? So then I took a medical leave of absence. So I'm a fifth year senior. So like
Gotcha.
for me, I don't know what a college experience is really like. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm just here to get my degree and go.
Yeah.
And I think that like it's unfortunate, but it's just kind of these are things that were gonna happen, and like there was nothing I could really do about it. I will say though that like I really enjoy learning. I feel like I've become a much more intelligent and intellectual person because I'm in college and have access to like an amazing education, and I go to Brown, so everything is about like collaboration. So even in
Hmm.
class, just getting to listen to what other people are thinking like that, I mean, it truly like fills me in that way. So I think that like I would say that it's 50-50. It's like 50,
Hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, I just want to go. Like I'm ready to live my
Hmm.
life because like honestly, I've barely been here to begin with, you know?
Hmm.
And I'm tired.
Yes.
And, and so much has happened. So, I think people like my year specifically can kind of understand with the COVID, but then it gets worse because when I came back, I was excited and then I was like pretty much bedridden for
Yeah.
the semester. So it's like it's love and hate. I
Yeah.
appreciate like what it's going to do for me in the future. But like the things that I had to go through, not easy.
Yeah, yeah. That breaks my heart because I'm glad you said that because I was like, oh, she's in college. I wonder if she did like her senior year go over COVID or when some COVID obviously had affect your
Mhm,
education, whether it was college or was it with like your last years of high school.
mhm,
But that sucks to hear that you don't have that college experience because some of my closest friends to this day who have been my first guests, I met through college.
mhm,
And I'm a social butterfly.
mhm,
And so anytime people are like, would you do college again? I will say, yeah, but I would like to take my social group and put it into a different school. I went
got
to River Falls, so it was more smaller. I would love to go to like a school that's all about sports and all about like
mhm,
partying and stuff like that, just to see like who will be what stories me and my friends would have come up with. So it
right.
sucks that you had a rocky couple of years and you don't
Mhm,
even get that experience. I love that you love learning. I love learning too, but like there's
mhm,
something about that social aspect when you're on your own, you're a
mhm,
young kid. That 4 years of experience and that experiment, because a lot of people think college is like an experiment, like it's the
mhm,
only time as your youth that you can just be free on your own and like not have any consequences.
mhm.
You do when you get that bill later, but that's here nor there. So, so that's why I'm like, damn, if you gotta pay that money, you better get drunk. You better have a boyfriend. Well, you have a boyfriend, but get drunk. Like, I don't know, get in the fights. Like, just have that experience. But it
Mhm.
sucks that you don't have that. So hopefully, maybe do you find that this podcasting and all that stuff can help you have that social experiment or experience, I should say?
I'm hoping to get it when I get my master's a little bit, though I want more responsibilities at that point because my parents are like, Sydney, like, girl, we tired of taking care of you. But I'm hoping to kind of have it then, but like kind of similar to what you said, where you would want to take your friend group and like move to a different school. Like I have a tight knit friend group as well. I would want to take my friend group and move us to a different time, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Saying
Hmm.
this was like 2016, like again, imagine the stories just because we could have like that continuity that's really a necessity. But I also am a firm believer that like things happen for a reason. So I think that like the lessons that am learning right now are valuable. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I've been through a lot, but I think that like, this is so corny, but like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I'm gonna choose to believe that.
Yeah, it's not corny because I don't know what this says, but I'm trying to tell myself that in therapy. So I'm literally trying to like use those models to help me out. So I'm like,
Mhm.
it's not corny, it's not corny. That's
Oh,
what I tell myself. But yeah, that's nice. I always thought about that, how people are adapting now that COVID is kind of over. I graduated college in 2016, so I mean COVID
mhm.
was not even in anyone's radar.
Right.
and so I do have those stories, but man, like COVID really, really was like just talking about status quo. Like the world was like, we're too comfortable. Like you guys are still operating the same way. I gotta go left, and we went left. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was a shitty experience. So you want to take your master's?
Mhm.
Why more school? Like why can't you just be happy with the bachelor degree and just move on with your life?
I think that well, I want first I feel like I need to network more so that I
Hmm.
be where I want to be professionally, but like my I think that like the things I want to do have changed so much, right? So like starting college, I was like, I want to be a lawyer, right?
Hmm.
The Emily's kid with the purse.
Hmm. Yes, and the walk and the wigs.
And this then I was like, well, because I really had to be honest with myself. Before I think growing up, I was kind of told the things that I should do, the acceptable industries that you are supposed to work in that will give you the most return. And I think that like throughout my college experience, and being home helped a lot because I had so much free time that I was just like,
Hmm.
what do I like? And I really
Hmm.
liked listening to podcasts.
Hmm.
And I remember listening to one podcast where people were just chatting nonsense. And I was like, these people don't seem that smart. I was like, if they can figure this out, I was like, I know I can. So I was like, let me put something together, right? And so the first like podcast I ever created sucked. It was terrible, like 2021. And just throughout that stretch of time, it was all everything I created was bad. But I was like,
Hmm.
I know that I have something to say. It's just a matter of
Hmm.
the way I package it. So I kind of taught myself how to do all this. And then I realized like I was like, oh, like this is just marketing, right? Like this is just digital media marketing, that kind of thing. And I realized that I genuinely have a passion for this. And I was like, if I'm gonna work like and do something from 9 to 5, this is what I would want to do.
Hmm.
So I was like, I don't think the law school thing is gonna make sense. But I also do want to receive kind of proper instruction, right? Because I do think it's important that like while you can teach yourself stuff through YouTube tutorials, also having like professors and people who are professionals in that space to kind of instruct you is also very valuable as well. So I think it's kind of that's kind of the direction I'm going, and also because I have a poli sci degree,
Hmm.
and I have worked like some decent internships and things in the digital marketing space, but still, I think it helps to have my master's, and I do want to make money, like real money,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hold you, came in. I don't know if you know what it's like for the new grads. They are playing with us.
I can imagine.
No, they're
I can
literally like
imagine.
they are playing in people's faces, offering like $40,000 salaries. I was like, you might as well have just not gone to school. I was like,
Yes.
nah, I'm going back. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
That's why I asked you, like, why are you going to masters? I felt like your generation knows that, like, you know, you can make it on your own, kind of in a way. And I'm glad you said that. When you started your podcast before, I never had that insight in myself too, because like you, I was told. Um, it's so interesting too. It wasn't like I was told, but my parents were like, "Well, if you want to move to California and pursue acting,
Mhm,
why don't you go to college for acting and get your degree and stuff like that, or like
mhm,
have a backup plan and stuff like that." And there was a brief time when I was like maybe in third grade, fourth grade, I was like, "I want to be a lawyer," and this teacher was like, "No, you don't." And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I don't. And so I never thought about it ever again. In
mhm,
hindsight, I hang out with a lot of lawyers, and I mean, I'm just not that type of learner where it comes through books and lectures and law. It's just too dry for me. I'm a learner with through people and creativity in the world and experiences.
mhm,
And so I got a marketing degree because I was like, well, I can make like commercials, I can work on the creative agencies. I definitely
mhm,
wanted to be the person that created ideas and stuff like that. But
mhm,
I'm also glad that you said that you wanted your education because I was worried that this new generation that's coming up is going to be like, well, I don't want to do college anymore. I can just make YouTube videos. And so it
They
asks, kind of say it again.
they are like that. I'm probably a little bit of a rarity.
Well, you did start off saying that you like to go left when everyone going right. So that makes sense.
Mhm.
But what I was going to say is like, are you missing the education? Are you missing the learning? Because I feel like the topic that I want to talk about, which we can get into whenever. But
Mhm.
I feel like I was worried that this generation coming up is going to be like, you know what? Let me get my high school degree, if that, like, if
Mhm.
I want to, whatever, pop some stuff up on YouTube, work for it a couple years, get some ads, make my business, and move on. And I was like, you still need to learn. Like, there's a technique, there's a foundation to this, and I think that's what we get to with like the music industry sucks right now. And people are like,
Mhm.
why? It's like because everyone just pops in and pops out. Like, no one is learning. No, there's no artist development. There's no structure to albums. There's no structure to songs. It's just like we found a quick formula that can be digestible for everybody. If you
Mhm.
can make a song work, make a song work. So I'm glad that you were like, no, I need my education. I need a foundation,
Mhm.
a solid foundation of knowledge before I go out on my own. And maybe, you get your master's degree and your podcast does well and you become that Candace Owens and then, you do your thing. But at least you have that education that you can always fall back on. Because if people have a YouTube channel and it bellies up, they don't have an education to fall back on. So I was like, I wonder what this young generation's doing.
Mhm. I completely agree with your analysis, and I think that your concern is very legitimate because I think what happened is that there are certain people who have gone from like rags to riches by just vlogging, right?
Yes.
There's a few Emma
Yeah.
Chamberlains and like some others who like, you know, I mean, there's nothing inherently like different about Emma
Yeah.
Chamberlain. She just vlogged and got
Yes.
famous. And so I think a lot of people my age are like, I want to do that. Because if we're being honest, though, now she's like dealing with burnout and all these different things, it's easier and simpler than, it seems easier and simpler,
Mm-hmm.
but it's oversaturated now. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
a creator. Everybody like there's so many a lot more podcasters and things
Mm-hmm.
of that nature. So you do need the structure. Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, getting a few thousand is a lot more difficult now than it was in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like the structure part is really important, but I also think that people are attracted to what is fast, what seems
Mm-hmm.
easier, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
taking a course offered by your favorite creator seems much easier than going back to school and getting your master's. So,
Yes. I love that. Yeah, you are right. Wow, God, I just had a point. Going back to school, Amber Chamberlain. Fuck, what was it? Something about Emma Chamberlain. Emma Chamberlain. I cannot remember. But anywho, yes, people are going and running into. God, I wish I had. I need to start writing things down. I keep telling myself every podcast you need to
uh,
write it down, and I sit down and I'm like, fuck, I don't have any paper. Whatever. You're right. I had a point. I lost it. It is what it is. But let's talk about the topic that I want to talk about because you keep
okay.
bringing up some stuff, and I'm like, this is what I've been dying to talk to you about.
Okay.
First, I want to start off by asking you, where do you see podcasts heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Ooh, that's a good question. This is a really, really good question, Kano. Well, the first thing is that I think that we're gonna see, and we've already seen it, is Spotify has completely taken over. And so the monetization is gonna be terrible. That's what I know. So I think podcasting is I'm not gonna say that I think podcasting is gonna become what the music industry kind of is, if I had to guess, right? So I think the goal for a lot of people is that they're gonna start a show with the intention of getting said show picked up by by a Spotify, by these other companies, media companies. Because right now I think we're in like the baby phases of that, but I could see I think once those big companies like catch on and realize that like, oh, this is a great way to make money. Podcasting is a fantastic way to make money. And
Mm-hmm.
even the advertising on podcasts, like people actually buy like if your favorite podcaster advertises something, like the odds of you purchasing it go it's way up,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think that like companies are definitely going to catch on and it's going to get really aggressive. That's what I would say. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna get really aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get very difficult to break through. So,
Mm-hmm.
while I do encourage people to start podcasts, I'm like also, guys, please stop because it's hard enough. um, but I think that like the other thing is that for people who want to be famous, but don't have the talents per se, like the traditional. I'm not gonna say because podcasting is a talent in and of itself.
Yes.
I would,
Yes.
I believe that, but I also
Yes.
believe that like a lot of people that maybe are like failed actors, failed musicians, like the Joe Buttons, right? Failed
Hmm.
this, that, and the third. They're going to jump into podcasting. Either failed
Yes.
at like Carmelo Anthony. He got a podcast now, right? Everybody's
Yes.
gonna start a podcast when their initial career doesn't work out. So I think that's where it's going.
I love that you said that because when you said failed, I thought about, the Ned Declassified School Survivor Guide podcast.
They keep on telling, did we ask? Did we ask? Did
My friend sent me
it be
that clip, and I was just like, what are we doing? Like,
right?
is this what we're doing? We're going on a podcast, our podcast, because our TV show can't get picked up. I wonder why. I wonder who is the reason why your TV show can't get picked up for a renewal. And we are, I don't even remember how old I was, but probably in high school, maybe before high school,
Mhm,
watching this show, knowing that I don't know how old she was,
mhm.
going around and blowing kisses to the boys downstairs, if you know what I mean, and to all of them. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I was over here with this one. I was over here with this one. I even sucked you off too." And I'm like, I was just trying to watch you on Saturday night with on Nickelodeon in my underwear with my action figures next to me. And
Uh-huh.
now I know as an adult, you're going around sucking people off. It's just like, is this what podcasting has come to where we just say the most outlandish shit just to get attention? And that is what scares me, is
Mhm,
because I can't compete with that, nor do I want to compete with that.
mhm,
And I was talking to someone who kind of flip flopped. First, he was saying, like, oh, well, you're not like the rest of them because you're not trying to, like, have gossip, like, because a lot of people who are gay who have a platform,
mhm,
I want to say a lot, but some of them that get risen to the top are just chatty gossipers that are just
mhm,
talking shit and,
mhm.
just being a gay boy, just talking shit.
Right,
And
right.
he's like, well, you don't have to be that. You're doing something different. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, how do I grow? How do I grow? And he was like, you need to talk some shit. Like, you need to go out there and talk that shit. And I was like, I don't want to sit here and no shade, no tea to Jason Lee, but like, I will let Jason Lee do Jason Lee and he can handle that. If you want to spread some tea about
Yeah.
Beyonce, you can spread tea about Beyonce, but I just don't have time
Mhm.
for that. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, is that where we're going? Is podcasting now a place where it's not about conversation building, it's not
Mhm,
about connecting, it's not about community, it's not about learning. Both of us just talked about how much we love to learn. And this is
mhm,
a great place to learn, to
mhm,
grow, to learn through people. I got into Curious because I was tired of 2020, everyone was just siloed in their own community and no one cared about any other community but their own. And I thought that was dangerous. And that's exactly what big business wants. They want you to be afraid
mhm.
to connect with the person next to you because if we connect as a community, we will see change.
Yep.
But I live in a condo. I don't even know who the fuck lives next to me. If my mom grew up in a condo during her time, she would know every person on the damn floor.
Yep.
And that is lost. And so you see these podcasts talking about how black women ain't shit and how black men ain't shit, and then how on the TV show was sucking your dick, and it's just like I mean, there's an audience for everybody. There's 8 billion people. There's enough to go around,
Mhm.
but when I'm looking at the next 5 years, or when I'm just looking at today, and I'm looking at what's popping, I'm like I don't know what's happening. I don't know if we're shifting to a different style,
Mhm.
and now yeah, so let me pause because I've been waiting for this. So I almost pop the balloon. So let me breathe and get some water.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like so l- this is just what I would say to you, that delayed gratification is better than instant gratification. So the person who said like, you need to really like start talking to in the short, if you're really like, look, I'm tired, I want 20,000 followers, what do I need to do? I mean, I guess like you just got to start chatting away, right? But if the goal is to create something that you're proud of and to grow a community, then be yourself, right?
Hmm.
Can't really grow a community by being ridiculous, right? That's not
Hmm.
how that works.
Hmm.
And the reality is that the Ned Declassified, those people, to a degree, like, yes, they have a lot of conversation, but they don't have a lot of community, right? So they have
Mhm.
to keep, like, the reality is that I think what will happen is that people will flame out and other people will replace them. So eventually
Mhm.
we're gonna get tired of it. They're gonna get tired of it. There's not
Mhm.
enough. I don't know how many people that the woman sucked off, but like eventually we're gonna run out. We're gonna run out and we're gonna move on. And then somebody, some other show that we don't, it's been decades since anybody thought about them, will come up with a podcast talking about the show. And it'll just be, I think that will be the cycle. But
Mhm.
I think the people that will stand the test of time are people who can find a way to create
Mhm.
in an organic sense, right? Um,
Mhm.
but I think that with podcasting, like it has always been like we think of the top podcasters, whether it's Joe Rogan, who is probably the biggest podcaster in the world. If we're
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
you have the Call Her Daddies, the Joe
Mhm.
Budens. There is an element of like ridiculousness that all of them possess. And I think that the reality is that like if you're not willing to, I guess it I don't want to say stoop because I don't want to make it seem like they're doing something less than because that just could be who they
Mhm.
are. But like if you're
Mhm.
not willing to like go that route, you may
Mhm.
not be like famous. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I
Mhm.
think that
Mhm.
the honest truth. But if the goal is community, like keep doing what you're doing.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I said this before because I don't know why I always relate podcasting to like singers and songwriters or
Mhm,
albums. I think if I had that ability, I for sure would go down that right to start writing music.
mhm,
But it comes down to writers and artists who are like, yeah, you can make an album, but can you make a radio hit? You need to make a radio hit. And I think that's what you're saying is you got to have a couple radio hits because without a radio hit, then who are you? You know, you are someone with great music, yeah, but like that's not how the business works. You know, if you want those Sprite deals, you want to, be on the VMAs or whatever, you need that radio hit. And I think I struggle with that because how do you make a radio hit? Like, what's a radio hit? And I don't want to
mhm,
make something that isn't true to who I am. Like, I don't
mhm,
want to just start making content just for the sake of content. Because
mhm,
then I'm like, then what am I doing it for? I just feel like people can tell. At least I
mhm,
can tell. And that's what I'm getting tired of too, is people are just making content just to make content. And I
mhm,
get it. You saw Emma Chamberlain. We saw the whole social media economy before 2020 just like boom, and then now we saw that little glimpse after 2020, everyone's booming. But I think of the point that I was going to make about when you're going all the way back to Emma Chamberlain about how everyone is now making something. I understand why people are making something because I feel like people are hurt. I feel like people are in pain. I feel like they're broke in so many different ways.
mhm,
And they're like, if I can get clout and if I can get money, then I will be happy, I will be healed, and that will give me what I want.
mhm,
And I mean, that's obviously not the case. Money
mhm,
and fame does not make you healed. It actually makes it worse.
mhm,
And so that's what I feel like is happening. I feel like yes, I struggle with the idea of do I need to make a hit? Okay, if I need to make a hit, then how do I make a hit that's authentic to me? Or do I just stay true to the course? And if something pops, which is whatever. And then there's another thing too, is just like what you were saying that is saturated. Is like I feel like it's saturated because a lot of people take this route because it's easy and because they're hurt. And so they're like, well, if it's easy and I can get my pain relief, then let me go out here. Let me talk about sucking dick. Let me say that black women don't bring anything. I get the
mhm,
money, I get the chains, and then I should be happy. It's like, no, what will make you happy if you figure out what your purpose is in life, which is so hard and so daunting. I really think it just comes down to what as a child, like you talked about how you were defiant since day one. I think,
mhm,
I have memories of my neighbors moving away and being like, I will remember you from singing on your porch. So it goes back to what you did as a child that kept you
mhm,
happy is probably right there. If you can go back to your inner child and be like, what did I do that I can just spend hours on? That's probably your talent and your passion. But we just got so wrapped up in the world, and big business understands it and they know how to get you off track.
mhm.
So this is me just the passion is taking over. I have no idea what point I was trying to make. I have no idea what question I was going to ask.
I totally, I tell you, I totally understand. I totally understand.
So that's me just like wandering on. So,
I
okay, go ahead.
because I was gonna say, hold on, now I'm struggling to find my. But okay, so talking about it being oversaturated, I think um before fame was not accessible to people.
Mhm,
Fame was like this like far away thing, and it was you had to be like a singer, you had to be an actor, you had to have
mhm,
a skill, and you had to be like very good at that skill, and then other
mhm,
people would market you to the world. But now if you can figure out a way to market yourself, then
mhm.
like you're good to go. You
Yeah.
could be pretty famous that way, and there are so many different niches, right? And ways for you to become famous. But I will say that I think because I think it's two pronged, right? With
Mhm,
building community and, growing an audience, is
mhm,
that like if you know how to market yourself, you can make yourself grow. It just won't be rapid, right? And
mhm,
that's the thing. It will be gradual. Like I saw a post the other day about this guy, and he was like, I grew 170,000 followers overnight. He was
mhm.
being sarcastic. It was just it was just the hook for the
Yes.
video. He was like, actually, I've been doing this for 10 years. I, and there was a
I
lot
hate
of
that.
trial and error. And I'm like, a lot of people don't want to do this for 10 years. They want the overnight 170,000 followers, but that's not how that works. You have to be patient, and you have to be consistent, and you have to try different things and learn different things, and then 10 years, hopefully 10 years from now, all of that will sort of pay off, and that you'll have a following that you're like you can monetize, right? Hopefully
Mhm,
pay your bills and do all of that good stuff.
mhm,
But I think that a lot of people are like looking at again the Emma Chamberlains, the Charlie D'Amelios, the whoever who's just blown
mhm,
really fast, and they're like, "That's what I want." But what we don't
mhm,
understand is that that's not going to happen anymore. Like,
mhm,
Charlie became super famous because TikTok, the app, was like very very small at the time.
mhm.
Right. So now that there's billions, or I don't know about billions, maybe I'm being a little dramatic, but
Yeah,
millions
yeah,
of people being hyperbolic, let me catch myself.
yes.
But now that there's like millions of people who call themselves creators, like it's gonna
Yes.
take a lot more to stand out.
Yeah, yeah. I like how I struggle with my patience. I've talked about this
Mhm,
5 ways to Sunday on this podcast, and I think that's also too because yeah, it's hard. Like that instant gratification is super hard. And I saw this illustration of it's hard to explain, but it's like half of it was someone trying to build a brick wall,
mhm,
and they got happy every time they put a brick down, and they just that's what gave them to the wall. But then the other half of the
mhm,
illustration was they put a brick down and they didn't get the wall, so they got frustrated. And so just
mhm,
visually, I'm like, oh, it's so easy. It's easier said than done because
mhm,
for me, I just I struggle with the future. I struggle with the unknown. So that's another thing too. Is just like I can be patient if I know it's going to work. And I feel like everyone's going to say that. They're like, yeah, I'll sit here for 25 years. If you tell me if I sit here for 25 years and I start getting what I need, yeah, I'll sit here. I'll
mhm.
sit here all day fucking long. But
Right.
that's the hard part is you got to sit here, you have to do it, and you have to do it regardless if the door is going to open or not. And so that's why I'm always trying to. I recently stopped looking into the likes and the saves and stuff like that because to be
Mhm,
100% honest, most of the people who like my stuff is you or friends. So at this point, I'm like, forget about it. And every
mhm,
single time I post a TikTok, it just gets 200 views within an hour and then it's done for the rest of the day. So I'm like,
mhm,
I can't, I'm learning through therapy that I have to stop being so angry over the things that I can't control. And so,
mhm,
one way for me to learn that is like, okay, then let's focus our ship somewhere else in a different direction, which is build community and find friends, share thoughts, share feelings, record it, post it, and keep moving on. But do you think I want to say that the podcast community needs to be better at leaning on each other. I feel like what's happening is there's a lot of podcast people who have their 20,000K who can
mhm,
barely hold two people in a life with their nose in the air. And I'm like,
mhm,
girl, you got a long way to go. And I don't understand why that is a thing. Why I feel that way. And it could just be the voices in my head, but I don't know why the social media community, and this is what I feel like is happening right now, is that we're getting to a place where we're getting divided and we're just focusing on our own page. And
Mhm,
I want people to know that if we lean on each other, we can probably get there a lot faster. If we
mhm,
started, especially if a podcast, like if someone's in your DMs being like, I like what you do, I have a podcast, let's collab, why are you not jumping on that opportunity? That is a
mhm,
guest that is literally saying, I'm here for you. All we got to do
mhm.
is just link up our time schedules. And that is for you, like for you to come on here. Now, when I post this, there's at least 2 weeks of clips that you don't have to do, but your name is going to be tagged in it. So TikTok is going to take that and be like, oh, let me show her friends this. It's just like,
Mhm.
I don't see why podcasts, and tell me how you feel about this, but I don't see why the podcast community and just the social creator economy is not
Mhm.
leaning on each other anymore. Like, what happened to us just collabing? What happened to us just popping up on each other's stuff? And just, I feel like if we do that, we would get to point A, point B, C, D, E, F, G a lot faster.
Right. So for me, I think because this was one of the things that I realized was that when nobody else likes your stuff, it is the other creators who will like and support and
Yes, yes,
right? And so I think it's like a few weeks ago, there's a podcast. I think they're called the Wholesome House Podcast. I know they're like located
yes.
in the D.C.
Hmm.
And so I always just be like, my big thing is like if I see, especially Black people in the space who are creating content, like I don't even really care as long as it's not negative, right? I'll
Yes,
follow. I'll be like, love your
yes,
stuff. I'll try to comment if I have time, but like I try to always like
yes,
because like if we don't do it for our like we have to be the people who do it for ourselves, who provide ourselves that support because like there are times where like you have a lot of low engagement and there's just nothing you
yes,
can do about it. And so, like although it's great to have friends and family like it's like not y'all. I want other people.
yes, yes. I'm glad you said that.
It's like you sometimes need, that validation that like somebody sees the work I'm doing because this is work.
Yes,
It's a job.
yes,
Like it's a
yes,
job. Many of us don't get paid to do it. And so like for me, anytime I see a post, anytime somebody says like, "Hey, Sydney, like I love to do, I love to guest." I'm like, "Yeah, let me just figure it out." Sometimes I don't have time, sometimes I do, but I'm like I don't feel like there's ever a point in time where anyone is too good or like whatever to guest on the podcast. At the end of the day, some of the people who blow up, it's like it's not necessarily they're blowing up because like their perspective is just so like intellectual and like unique. Like they blow up because
hmm
like you just happen to blow up. Like that's
hmm
literally what it is. And sometimes it's because, like Nes Declassified, where they just talk about crazy stuff that they've done or have, what I'm saying? Like it's not
yes,
I think that like for a lot of people they start to view themselves as superior because they have
yes,
a following um, but uh, there's and this is just like what my at least my take on it. It's like you can't really start acting like you're so above it if you don't even see if you can still see the DM, child. That's all
yes, yes,
until those
yeah.
DMs are full. Like you cannot like that. That was my thing. It's like until the only time where I'll start like not really accepting interviews is when like I cannot it until it's impossible for me to do so. Till I get there, I'm not there for real. And that's okay.
You said it better than me because I'm like a lot of you people act like your check engine light is still not in your on your car. Like you can't be sitting here with your nose up in the air and your check your check engine light is on your car.
No, they're just regular, literally regular everyday people who happen to have a little following. Like, okay, girl,
Yes,
you got 10K. Like,
yes,
that's not like you see the DM. Come on
yes,
now.
yes, yes. And that's the thing too. Like when you see it, yeah, I just like you said, you don't know who's going to pop off. And I was just watching this YouTube video with Trixie Mattel. I don't know if you know her, but she's a famous drag queen.
Mhm,
And she always says this story. They always ask you or ask her what's like one of her YouTube regrets. She said, someone's agent came up to me or slid in, got my attention and
mhm,
said, hey, we have this rise up and coming star. blah blah blah. Would you want to do a makeup tutorial? And
Mhm.
she was like, I don't know who this girl is, so no. Turns out it was Olivia Rodrigo, and it was literally yes, it was right before Taxi Cab. So they were trying to get a lot of stuff like we're about to
God.
release Taxi Cab, and they were going to release these YouTube videos. So what they were trying to do was get her in these pockets. So when
Mhm.
Taxi Cab comes, then all these YouTube videos and things pop
Right.
off. And that is what I'm trying to get other podcasters to like understand. Like,
Mhm.
you have no idea who's the next Olivia Rodrigo. You have no idea who is in your DMs.
Mhm.
And if you are too busy because you have two people in your life and that's too much for you, and your check engine light, it keeps, whatever the reason why you can't check your
Mhm.
DMs because whatever, then you miss up on that opportunity. Because let's say I'm like, oh, I don't want Sydney, and then all of a sudden you popped off somewhere, you're on the View, everyone's talking about your shit. Like, fuck, that could have been my clip, could have been circulating in the zeitgeist, and then my name could have been brought up. Now, you have to still do the work. Like, you can't just let Sydney do all the pull. You got to have something else. But still, like,
Right.
imagine if you sat there, you're ready, but then
Mhm.
you're just like, well, I don't know about her. She doesn't have enough followers. I don't know what she does. To me,
Mhm.
like you said, the only criteria that I look for is, are you trying? Like, are you trying to provide something? Are you trying to provide I want to be careful with the word quality because that can be very subjective, but I'm just going to
Mhm.
say quality. And that's it. That's all I want. And so, yeah, I just feel like the community in podcasting, the community in just even the social content creator environment ecosystem is gone. I think a lot of people, and it doesn't help that the apps are no longer promoting community anymore. I don't know about you, but when I go on TikTok, I have no idea what they're showing me. It feels like just Facebook. It feels like just random shit. Like that has
Mhm.
is someone said is eye candy, not soul food, and I 100%. TikTok is just like I'm TikTok in my opinion, this is my theory about TikTok. That lawsuit shook them up. And I think what
Mhm.
happened was, or that trial, whatever they were in,
Mhm.
TikTok is a business at the end of the day. And so if
Absolutely.
you want to play with those big boys, and those big boys are causing these trials and
Mhm.
whatever, they're going to come to you and be like, listen, legally we can't really do anything, but what we can do is pressure you. And if you want to have a seat at this table, I don't like that your algorithm is connecting these people, so you need to fix your algorithm. And I believe TikTok, fine tuned it to now where it's just like, I'm just giving you something that you can stay addicted to the app, but I'm not giving you creators. If I'm giving you a creator, it's Terry Joe or Alive or someone's selling you something. Other than that, we're just going to see some random videos. So
Mhm.
I see it, I feel it, and it sucks that I don't see the rest of the social media environment, zeitgeist ecosystem not feeling that and not
Mhm.
seeing that and not acting upon that. Because I think a good way to combat that is to focus on just linking arms with each other until we make a big
Mhm.
web. So no matter what they promote, we are making our own little heartbeat in TikTok, and
Mhm.
that cannot be defeated. So I
Right.
don't know.
Absolutely. And I think that like for me, it was so easy, like this time last year, it was so easy to connect with people on TikTok. Like
Yes.
TikTok was
Yes.
very simple. It showed you the stuff that you were interested in. Cause right now,
Yes.
about my For You pages is shambles. I'd be like, not
Yes.
interested, not interested, not interested. Why aren't you
And they
listening to
still
me?
show you.
Don't show me this nonsense. um,
Yes.
but I definitely agree with you that I think after I don't know if it was the House hearing or whatever committee
Hmm.
hearing they had, I think,
Hmm.
and it was looking like they were going to ban the app.
Hmm.
I think they definitely decided to make adjustments to the algorithm to just be more similar to other apps. Like TikTok has
Hmm.
become literally like any other app. I mean, people
Hmm.
still are, reckless on there as they always. I think that's just what TikTok is. It's the place where you can
Hmm.
be a bit more unfiltered, but like it is the connectivity, like that tissue is missing.
Hmm.
And that's a part of the reason why I started going live more often because I'm like, okay, I post a lot in my friends only, but a lot of my friends only post like I don't think my friends are even seeing them. So I'm like, okay, let me just go live, talk to people live, connect with like people who follow me and I follow back live as well, and just have conversations about things that are going on
Yeah.
because TikTok is not really letting us do that in the way that it once did.
Yes, yes. I want to be, how, do you have anywhere to be after this, or do I need to be time sensitive?
Let's try to finish up at like 7:30 ish, because my boyfriend
Okay.
is picking me up later.
Okay. Well, I'll try. Okay. Where do I, I have like, let me see if I can get three things in. Okay, first,
Okay.
let's go to, oh, where do I want to go? Who in black, in black, what am I trying to say? Black people, black community, the
Okay.
culture.
Mhm.
Who is the Joe Rogan? Who is our Joe Rogan? I'm having a hard time pinning who is our Joe Rogan. Do we have Joe Rogans? Who is the pinnacle of podcasting when it comes to black people? Is it Joe Budden? Is it Charlemagne? Charlemagne doesn't have his own. He has Breakfast Club and Brilliant Idiots. Like, who do you think in black space is the Joe Rogan?
I think the problem is that we don't have one. I think that's kind of
Why don't we have one?
so. Okay, Joe Rogan is not someone who should be taken seriously. I'll say that.
Okay.
That's my first thing. But I think the issue, okay, so the issue is that everything with Black media is very entertainment centric. So I think you have a lot of people saying the same thing in the same way, having conversations with the same people. One of the things that Joe Rogan talks to like everybody.
Hmm.
You don't have a lot of black podcasters talking to everybody. Now, I
Hmm.
guess maybe the Breakfast Club, like they have politicians on, they have like
Hmm.
different, people on, but they're not, and again, not that Joe Rogan is taken like seriously, um, but like there's nobody who's doing it. I think we have a lot of people who are doing it average, like doing an average
Hmm.
job with how they interview, how they run their platform, but nobody's doing a great job, right?
Hmm.
And I think he's not. I don't know if are we counting British people?
Who are you about to say though?
Diary of a CEO is the only
I don't know
black.
who that is.
Okay, you should look him up because he has some interesting interviews. But
Okay.
he is the only black person that I've seen. And I think Trevor Noah has a shot as well with his new
Hmm.
podcast, but it's just very new. So it's not
Hmm.
like well established yet. And I don't think he has, I don't know if it's a video podcast or if it's just audio, because I think video is
Hmm.
like you need that nowadays. But I think my prediction would be that like a Trevor Noah would do really, really well because he's like very, he's funny. He can have a lot of different types of conversations. I just think that right now, part of the issue is that the top podcasters just don't have the ability to have, a lot of different conversations. I think that's the primary issue. But I don't know if I'm trying to think like, am I missing somebody?
I
Because
mean, this was my question. I'm trying to think of people because I'm trying to feel like who is it? Is it Charlemagne? Is it Nori? Is it Joe Budden? But these are all entertainment,
right?
like you said,
So
entertainment. And I don't know. Yeah.
well. Because the thing about Joe Rogan, I think what makes him special is that he can talk about entertainment, but he can also talk about politics. He doesn't do it
Yes.
well, right? Like he just spreads a
Yes.
bunch of information and
Yes.
he just incites chaos. but he
Yes. Yes.
doing, but he is doing it. You get what I'm saying? Like he's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
stuck in a niche. And I think
Yes.
that a lot of black podcasters are stuck in a niche. It's entertainment and dating. That's all black podcasters talk about. And there's a lot of
A
podcast
lot of
genres.
them. Yes.
There's true crime, there's
Yep.
obviously there's entertainment, there's so many things that you can talk about, but I think the issue is that a lot of podcasters are also following the template that's been set by other black
Yes.
podcasters where they only
Yes.
talk about those things. And so it's
Yes.
like we have to, I don't know, it's like one of those, I'm like we got to find a way, you guys, we got to try,
Yes.
we have to just try
Yes.
to like
Yes.
do something
Yes.
different.
Yes. That's what I was trying to figure out. And I love, we have to try. We have to, we just have to try. We have to connect. We have to bring each other on. We have to support each other. I feel like so many black people say this, but I don't know if it's just trendy to say and then we just don't put our money where our mouth is. But
Mhm.
yeah, I was trying to like, who is the Joe Rogan like of black
Mhm.
people? Like, and I think this came from like Taylor Swift versus Beyonce, right? So then,
Mhm.
and I remember a long time ago, Charlemagne said that the Breakfast Club is on the same level of Joe Rogan, and I was just like, but Joe Rogan is by himself, and there's three of you people. So I was like, I
Mhm.
just, yeah, and that was the question that was formulated, like, who
Mhm.
is the black version of Joe Rogan? And
Mhm.
then another question is, who's next? Another reason why I want our community to lean on each other is because the people who are at top right now are eventually just going to be in that status quo and
Mhm.
float over to the side. You can
Mhm.
think of Howard Stern. Howard Stern is a powerful radio host, right? But I've never once listened to a Howard Stern interview in my entire life. And honestly, I think if I was not really paying attention and I went to Target and he was there, I probably would not even know that was Howard Stern. I don't look at him on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So I say that because it's like, who's next? I don't feel like podcasting, especially in the black community, who is next for us? And recently, there's this podcast, these British people called Shits and Gigs. It's like two black guys, so they're getting notoriety. I see them on red
Mhm.
carpets now. I see them popping around. So I'm like, okay, that's
Mhm.
one. But like,
Mhm.
where's the rest? Like, who's next? And so that's another reason why I'm like, hey, podcast community, eventually in the next 5 6 years they're going to need, I don't want to say they need people to replace the old heads, but
Mhm.
it's just how life works. Like if you get established, you're just going to eventually just drift over here, and especially if you get older and generations come and keep coming, they're not really
Mhm.
going to like creep over to your side. So we got to start making a community now, so when these people move over, there's people that can replace them. So do you know anyone that comes to mind that you think is next?
I don't know because one of the podcasts that I love listening to is Higher Learning by Van
Hmm.
Lathan
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Rachel.
Love him.
That is a great podcast. But are
Yes.
they I
Yes.
don't think they have the growth. I haven't seen the growth. They get good. They are kind of similar to like the Breakfast Club in that they get
Hmm.
really good. But they do a better job with like handling the conversation, and the interviews are really really good. So
Hmm.
I could see if I had to nominate anybody, I would nominate them because I feel
Hmm.
like. But then again, it's two people, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
I mean,
two of
the
them.
numbers, I guess, don't matter, like the group of numbers that don't
Mhm.
matter, but I could, for this conversation, it's like, who is next? It could be a group of them, but you
Okay.
think those group of
I
people who, those group of black people that get together and make their own panels and they just talk about dating and like they just yell at each other back and forth. Do you think those people are next?
think stop. That's what needs to happen. It's like there would be like 1,000 comments of people be like, "Please take their mics away."
I
I'm
don't
like, "Y'all been
even.
so long."
Do they? Because they're always in my fucking face. I feel like they get lots of views, and then I see them making their
They
own
do.
panels and having conversation with guests, or like the audience come up and have a question. I'm like, that's cool. Like I would love to do that one day. Do I
Are you
have
talking
to
about?
sit here? Say it again.
Are you talking about tonight's conversations?
I don't know their name, but I'm just talking about a group of black
Because
people that get
I feel
together.
like I know exactly who you're talking about because I've made like reactions to their videos, and I think the part that really annoys me, right, is they'll say something. They'll be like, "If somebody cheats on you, you should leave," and they'll be like, "Oh, you really ate that." Da, da, da. Like, please be serious. I'm like, seriously? Like, why are we acting like this is profound? Yes, yes. Or they'll say something like, men have feelings too. Like, we have emotions too.
The girl, we have to have another
I was
podcast
like,
about men in podcast.
why is this profound? Like, why are we acting like that? I think that is the part that disturbs me the most is that we act like, are we so behind that like simple things like this are like such huge things, and then it's like of course we don't have a Joe Rogan if we're like still like if these are the conversations that we're having right now. So, and because we were talking about guesting on podcasts, because there I have had opportunities to go on certain platforms, not that one specifically but others, And I was like, I'm not doing a panel. And I was like, my opinion, first of all, my opinion is gonna stand on my own. You're not gonna put me with some, with some people who don't know what the heck's going on. Um, and I'm not having that type of conversation. And it just didn't work out. But I'm like, if I'm having conversation, it needs to be something that I feel like is valuable, something
Yes.
that, like, after you watch the episode, I want people to go look things up. I want people to
Yes.
introduce to something new, not say the same thing over and over and over and over again, which is what happens on those panels.
Yes.
So, I don't know, but I would just say
I
this. Oh, go on.
I was going to say that I love what you were giving church for a very brief second, because one thing I hate is when someone thinks they're saying something super profound and they just sit
Mhm.
there and they're like, yeah, I said it. Like it's like a pastor that thinks he's saying something when he's not. And that's how I feel, is like it's just like that's another reason, like, okay, some podcasts are just talking about how they suck dick in the back, and other podcasts are just trying to be like this preacher with like these Bible quotes that you hang up on your live laugh love wall. And I'm like, just talk, like just talk,
Right.
just answer the question. You don't
Mhm.
not everything has to be this profound clip that comes out of your
Mhm.
mouth, and then you have the attitude as if you said something that meant something, and that's just like, boy, bye, like you're not even saying anything anyway, and then now you got the attitude about it. But okay.
Right.
Hello. Well, listen, I don't know what happened to the last 10 minutes of the podcast, but it got cut off. You didn't really miss much, honestly. The last question I asked Sydney was, is there any advice for me to be better on TikTok Live specifically? Because she's very good at joining on lives and having conversations with people. So she gave me some advice. And other than that, we kind of just thank each other for our time. I told her that she has a permanent guest in her corner anytime she needs a guest, anytime she needs someone to go on live. She knows where to find me. She knows where to call me. And she said likewise too, if I need another guest, I can call her as well. So other than that, that's what you missed. If you liked what Sydney said, if you want to follow her, I will link all her stuff below. And please follow me on all of my socials so you can stay aware and stay curious. All right, till next time, bye-bye.